Hey, what's up? We're back in the loft, and I have been waiting for the right time to start this little thing I've been wanting to do called conscious cooking. It's not necessarily about recipes specifically, but how to consciously cook when you have like a really busy life or like a highly difficult family to feed because everybody wants something different, or really just you're thinking more about the practical sense of like cooking and really coming over some of those difficulties you've had along the way. And I've been waiting for the right time, and a loft signal came in today, and a friend of mine bought me a sourdough starter. So we're gonna get started. This is how we're gonna do it. Welcome to Conscious Cooking here at the Discovery Loft. We're very excited about it. So my friend went ahead and bought me something pretty high end here. And this little scoob, I think is what they call it. It's like 100 and something years old. Hang on, let me see if it tells you. It smells sour. So apparently what we're gonna do here is we're gonna take this little guy who is awfully doughy, very doughy. And normally when I had thought about doing this conscious cooking segment, I really thought I would know what I was doing. And turns out in this scenario, I do not. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to touch that or not. Because apparently if you haven't ever, thought about doing sourdough bread, apparently you've got to do a starter, which I've seen be described as pretty simple, but I've also been massively overwhelmed by some of the videos too. So we're gonna see how difficult this really is and if I can think my way through it while I'm watching it. So apparently this is how you start. You add, oh, and my friend was so sweet. She ended up she bought a starter kit for hers. So she got me this really fancy jar, and it's got like this, what would you call this? She called it something. Basically, when I fed her, because this is like a living organism, which is, so Discovery Loft, like talking about all the systems and the things that come together to really create the structures and the systems that we live in, and being more conscious of the fact that we're actually in one, and then we get a choice what we want to do while we're in it. It's pretty freaking cool. Not that I think that this guy's got a choice in it. So I believe what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with 2 tablespoons of warm water, throw it on this guy, and then I believe I'm supposed to mix it in. And if you're watching and thinking that is totally wrong, I want you to start thinking about a perspective we use here at the Discovery Loft. I call it not what it should be, but what could it be? And I really practice, and we really try to practice it here with the kids and with ourselves, because it's not typical and it's not easy and it's definitely not automatic. But when we get information or we see information, and especially online, I see this all the time. So apparently we're supposed to stir the water in first and then add the flour. So it's going okay in here. If you're watching this and thinking that is crazy, it's because it is. I don't even really know what I'm doing. But anyways, instead of looking at something and instantly saying that's not right, or oh, that's not how you should be doing it, one thing I learned once I became much more conscious of the systems I'm a part of, both, culturally, socially, systemically, structurally, family, all those things, is a lot of things are often handed to us without our thoughts or conscious, uploading. It's something that's kind of ingrained in us without really knowing why. And one of the most important things I've learned is trying to avoid what should be and thinking more about what could be. So that is a loft principle that we practice routinely here. And we're actually developing some pretty cool exercises to help people start thinking more like that. And that's one of the reasons we use story worlds and narratives so often here, is that while we're studying human behavior and human conversation and communication, it's really important to, okay, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of bread flour, and I believe you're supposed to use unbleached, which I do normally. And normally I do King Arthur, but I was in a pinch once, and I got some not King Arthur. What is this? Gold. That's what we're doing this time. If she doesn't love it, I'm super sorry. We'll get the good stuff for next time. So anyway, so apparently we're just supposed to mix this in now, which looks pretty good. A little doughy. So anyways, we try to practice this because, we're developing a little exercise for how to practice this. And we use narrative because who wants to talk about the practicality of doing it? We like to use story because in stories, we're naturally allowed to drift. And there's this instinct that it could be whatever you want it to be. And for some reason, story world is allowed to do that, but our worlds aren't allowed to do that. So it's a really good place to start practicing because it'll really start opening up your mind in the different levels of your like cognitive abilities, almost like a cognitive training exercise. What can I do to widen the aperture of this information long enough for me to have more details along the way that give me a better perspective on how I'm going to answer this? Sometimes it'll come right back out the same way you originally wanted to. Maybe you'll also think you'll slightly adjust your perspective and you're like, and it'll slightly change how you're going to act on that, which, you know, when you start with something small and those little small decisions along the way where you're able to open up that aperture a little bit and see things a little more well-rounded, really just helps widen your perspective. And really, in the end, you want to make decisions that you want to make because you want to have a good life. And we really need to have a much more conscious view of our lives. So asking yourself more often what could be instead of what should be. So that's what we're doing here at the Discovery Loft, which is why I'm diving headfirst into learning how to make my own sourdough bread, even though I was not ready for it. It showed up here on my doorstep today, and we're just going to give it a shot. So from here, we basically let this guy, actually, you know what? I'm having a thought. They said pancake batter. This doesn't really look like pancake batter to me. So I'm going to add a tiny bit more water because I have a feeling it's a little, and this is really what conscious cooking is about. Not what should be, not what's in the instructions, but what are you looking at? What are you seeing? What are you observing? What's happening? Not just with the food either, but with your family, with yourself, with your health, with your mind. That's what I love about it. Okay, that looks a little better. I'm going to do even a slightly bit more. Again, I'm conscious it doesn't look quite like pancake batter to me. So I'm just going to add a little more. I'm not going to worry about what should be. I'm going to worry about what could be. All right, here we go. That's much better. I'm feeling more confident with that. That looks more like what I'm being described to as what it should look like. Or it looks more like what it should if it were supposed to look like pancake batter, in my perspective. All right, so we're going to give this guy a little cappy-do. All right, and we're going to put this to the bottom of the jar. You know, I should probably clean this. My friends was super clean when I saw it. You know what? I'm feeling a little like I'm not going to be able to see. So I'm going to grab this and I'm going to clean up this a little bit. She is like a highly aesthetic person. And I like aesthetics, don't get me wrong. It just doesn't come naturally to me. Which is why mine looks like a freaking dumpster fire and hers looked beautiful when I saw it today. All right, so this is as good as it's gonna get for right now. I'll clean it up when you're away and we're gonna go from there. And we'll see what lessons this little ditty is gonna teach us here at the Discovery Loft. We'll see you soon. There, all better. See you guys.